I'm Sev, and welcome to Alien Spirit TV. I'm a spiritual counselor, and I'm an experiencer. I created this series to expand your mind. Hi, I'm Sev. I'm going to talk about telepathy and how it relates to aliens. Telepathy is simply the exchange of information from one being to another without any physical contact. And it comes from two Greek words, tele, meaning distant, and pathos, meaning perception and feeling. We are all hardwired to communicate telepathically. We can all do it, and in fact, we're all doing it all day long, every day. We engage in telepathic communication between ourselves, from human to human, and also between animals. When we have a thought, it creates an electricity. Every thought is electric. So when you have a thought, electricity is created, and that radiates from you. And other beings can pick up that electrical stimulation and interpret it. Where a lot of us get stuck is in between the receiving and the interpretation. In between there, we get disconnected. And there are two major reasons for that. One is the belief that we really can't communicate telepathically. And second, we disregard the information. We either think it's our imagination or we're making it up. But you've heard from very successful people who claim that they've achieved success because they listen to their instincts. And telepathy is a very important instinct. There are many different forms of telepathy, and chances are you've experienced some of them. For instance, telepathic communication between you and an animal. If you have a pet, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I communicate with my pets more with my mind than I do with words, and they do respond. Another form of telepathic communication between humans. For instance, when you're with someone and you're not talking and you think of something, and then they say what you're thinking, and it has nothing to do with what was said prior. Or knowing who is on the other line of the phone when the phone rings, knowing who's knocking on the door. There are other interesting telepathic forms, such as information that you can get from your dreams. I recently had an experience with my friend Jenna, who lives in Florida. I live here in North Carolina. And for the past few months, we've been having a lot of very interesting shared experiences. We've been having ET encounters together, and we've been engaged in astral projection together, and also other forms of communication that we will be telling you about soon. With Jenna and I, just a few days ago, we actually had a dream where we saw the same thing. Was it really a dream, or was it an ET experience? I'm going to create a video about dreams and the different types of dreams there are. When we go to sleep, we don't just have a normal traditional dream. We also engage in other experiences like astral travel, like interdimensional travel. And we don't quite have words for these experiences yet. So we're lumping all of these experiences into the word dream. And I really want to find new words. I want to find new words to describe the other things that we do when we're sleeping. that are not just simply dreaming, but are really active experiences that we're having. And telepathy falls into those active experiences that we're having when we are asleep. As an experiencer myself, I had telepathic communication in my ET contact with the Greys and with a group of beings I call the Blue People. This communication is very clear, and it's not only that you hear the words, but you will also feel the feelings. And that is why it's such an efficient way to communicate. Because it's not just reading the words on a paper or hearing the words spoken. It's beyond that. It's feeling the emotion at the same time. Now, these aliens that are having telepathic communication with us, many people who have had experiences with ETs and claim that they had telepathic communication probably would not have said that they can telepathically communicate before their experience. After their experience, they know what telepathic communication is and they know that they can do it. So it's not really that you have to be highly sensitive and you have to practice a lot in order to do telepathic communication. Because for people who've never done telepathic communication consciously before are having these experiences with ETs, and all of a sudden they're having telepathic communication. So it's not really hard to do. The other thing about these ETs who communicate with us telepathically is that their societies have accepted this as a way of being. And in order for society to flourish and to grow, they are going to accept certain modes of behavior that are going to be beneficial for their growth. And these advanced civilizations have accepted telepathy to be beneficial for the growth of their society. This can only happen if the entities in that social group aren't afraid of the others reading their minds or knowing what's on their minds. So chances are that these beings in these groups that are communicating telepathically are not engaged in negative thoughts, are not engaged in criticizing or judging the person that they're communicating with. Chances are that these beings that are communicating telepathically are doing so because their thoughts are kind, their thoughts are loving. They don't have negative, critical, judgmental thoughts about the other person when they're communicating with them. When I was trying to figure out what was going on between me and the Greys, because I used to be very afraid of them and I thought they were bad. As I did the self-introspection to discover my purpose and also to become the most authentic version of myself that I can possibly be, because I personally believe that leads you to peace and happiness, I had to understand who the Greys were. And when I started thinking about their communication with me being telepathic, I then realized, well, they can't be consumed with bad and evil thoughts, or else communicating telepathically won't be beneficial for their society. Evidently, they're having good thoughts, they're having nice thoughts, they're having loving thoughts, or this telepathic communication that they engage in with one another won't work. It won't be beneficial for them to grow and flourish. There's a fear of telepathy amongst human beings. A lot of people don't want you to read their mind They don't want telepathic communication between you and them. They are so afraid of what you're going to discover that they're thinking. So this leads me to our society. And this is why we're afraid of telepathy, because most of us are just consumed with negative thoughts, not only about ourselves, but about the other. And we don't want someone else to be able to read our mind. Hopefully, as each one of us does the self-work and the self-introspection, which can lead you to be a much more loving and a much more kind person, you can start eliminating those really negative judgmental thoughts you have about other people, and you won't be so afraid when someone starts to telepathically communicate with you and know what it is that you're thinking. Maybe one day our society can transform into a society where we feel comfortable telepathically communicating with one another. That's going to happen after we do a lot of work on ourselves to get rid of the negative thoughts that we are consumed with, or else telepathy between us is not going to be a good experience. Well, as I said earlier, it's a very efficient mode of communication. Not only do you get the information, but you get the feeling associated with the information, and you get it very quickly. I can give you some exercises to help you with your telepathic communication. I grew up practicing telepathy when my sister and I were little girls. My father played telepathic games with us. He would think of a shape, a simple shape, and then we would close our eyes and try to see it in our third eye, and we would tell him what we saw. He did the same thing with numbers, just numbers from 1 to 10. He did the same thing with colors. And this was a very fun game. My sister and I really loved playing this with my father. So you can do it with your children, and you can do it with your adult friends and family. With them, maybe you can do exercises that are a little more advanced. Maybe send them a thought, or send them some information that goes beyond just one word. These are all things that are fun to do, and not only do they exercise your multidimensional muscles, but it really makes you aware of how we're so much more than what we see in the mirror. How we have abilities that transcend what we are socially aware of. The one really beautiful thing about ET contact that I'd like to share with everybody is that it makes us aware of our multidimensional reality. I had talked earlier about what goes on when we go to sleep, that we don't have just normal traditional dreams, that we're also having other experiences in other dimensions, in parallel worlds. We do astral travel, and we also encounter aliens and have ET experiences at night when our eyes are closed. And these are not just simple dreams, these are real experiences because we are living through our other senses, and we experience life in the other dimensions where we exist and where other people exist and where other beings exist, not only on this planet, but in other planets too. So I encourage you to start speaking telepathically to your friends and to your pets.